return to this place and time. Thank you again for being here and for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'd like to, just off of what Judy said, this is a happy Memorial Day. If we can put those two words together, we recognize those who have fallen in battles, too many wars that we've seen and witnessed. My hope is that through this message, we can find hope and we can remember who we are. And so we'll get to slide 1, Judy. She's my Andrea today. So right now, we're living in a truly new golden age, a renaissance. It's an exciting time to be alive, as we're witnessing a shift in consciousness that never happened before, and I'll explain. The 4 energetic movements that govern human development and evolution are expression, experimentation, integration, and transcendence. They correspond to the evolution of mankind. We see in primitive man, his perception was holistic. It was always we. There was no perceived separation from nature, the earth, the stars, the universe. Mankind knew himself as part of the divine, interacting with it through the natural world. We see evidence of this in the pyramids and temples that were constructed many thousands of years ago. This was right brain activity. Then ancient man, there was the advent of science, religion, mathematics, and to modern man, dominance of the left brain. We built machines that do our physical work and artificial systems that outsource our brains. These have freed us in many ways, but at the cost to our connection to each other and the natural world and the universe. As we are now, contemporary man, the activity of the brain is moving back to a more balanced central position, rediscovering ourselves and our connection to the divine, our unity with each other and the all. Even though our consciousness has shifted now for these many millenniums, there are millions of us who are waking up from this dream, shifting from our physical, emotional state of being to a mind, spirit, expanded consciousness. Can we get a second slide, please? And how did all of this happen? Through change. It is natural, it is necessary force, the will of God for evolution, and the only constant in the universe. All change is experienced at some level as trauma, a change in the status quo. From the trauma of a child exiting the womb to the dynamic forces that shape the universe, all existence undergoes change through the pressure of force. In the beginning, as babies, we are deeply connected to Source, displayed by our innocence and purity, our right brains. But as we move through life, becoming more and more physical and identified as the body, independent, singular in the world, it's here where we run into problems. Living only in our physicality, we live more and more unconsciously at the mercy of our emotions, our thought patterns, which crystallize in our solidifying into our beliefs and our perspectives. We don't recognize ourselves for our true essence from Source. As physical beings, we end up defending our thoughts and beliefs, even to the point of conflict and war. This is our left brain. We unconsciously repeat the patterns we made or others handed down to us in this life and our karmic qualities we came in with. In the past, we created religion as a way to feel safe, to be part of a group, and establish a connection to the divine. The problem with this paradigm is that we gave up our sovereignty to a person standing in that capacity, acting as a representative on our behalf. Doing so removes our personal, active, natural ability to seek and reconnect with truth and the divine within. This connection is part of our DNA and can only ever be woken in us by a burning desire from the soul. An unfortunate outcome of traditional Christianity is the idea that we are born as sinners. From the story of Adam and Eve, we are made to believe that we, this perfect reflection of the omniscient source incarnate, are somehow flawed and need help from the outside in order to be saved from this so-called damnation. So we're living in shame, guilt, and judgment. We judge ourselves and the rest of the world. It doesn't make sense. Or does it? I do believe that allegory has a more positive metaphysical feeling, but that's for another time. And does this mean that I condemn all religions? No, I do not. The reason is each of us is uniquely built to a certain frequency or resonance, which validates to us what truth is. Whatever truth you feel aligned to is for you. So to return to our natural true selves takes the pressure of hard work of processing our traumas. We do this through a deep exploration of self, the am of the I am, our human self, productively following the universal laws with this awareness to learn what the soul and spirit has been trying to teach us all along. This will lead us to the I, our essence, our expanded, higher consciousness. Now, there are many paths to this connection, but first we must ready the body to be able to experience it. That means cleaning out all blockages of our subtle bodies to allow the free flow of energy. This is the hero's journey, and not for the weak of heart or mind. These traumas are the darkest part of our subconscious, the part of ourselves we'd rather not recognize, much less think about or work through. As spirit and soul are at a higher, finer vibration than the physical, that's the reason why it's necessary to tune the body up slowly without doing damage to the physical brain and the organs that need to come into resonance with those frequencies. So we use our brain, our greatest gift, for processing the world, which we do through the senses. But we're going to use it in a new way, to unlock the unconscious for us, to self-reflect, to know ourselves, our weaknesses, our strengths, not in judgment, but in order to learn how to use them for our highest good. Remember, the intellect alone operates on the mental plane. When intellect joins with the heart, it now operates on the spiritual plane, the equivalent of love, wisdom. It's through the heart that we begin. As our way shower Jesus said, "He that sees me sees the Father," meaning the Christ consciousness, unconditional love from the heart, will lead us back to our Godhead, the source that gives us life, that is source. That is our essence. As a fully actualized soul embodied in the man, Jesus used himself as the example, showing us in this life and even in death that unconditional love is the pathway to freedom from our human bondage of the emotional body. He demonstrated to us that we are eternal, eternal beings living in a human experience. And it's sad that traditional religion gave us this distorted idea about humanity as flawed. I believe this has delayed our spiritual evolution, disconnected us from source. However, all things considered, maybe this was the point. Contrast always creates clarity. Know thyself. These words are carved over the portal of the Temple of Apollo, the home to the Oracle of Delphi in the ancient Greek precinct of Delphi. The ancients knew this, that we, as part of nature and the divine, must journey inward in this quest, starting with the self, so that as above, so below, could be actualized, bringing heaven to earth. Now, we think of trauma, we imagine it is only happening to us physically. However, it happens in all of our subtle bodies. physical, emotional, and mental. The only thing that differentiates our experience as either positive or negative is our response, which are the patterns we have built, our reaction, which is processed through the emotions. I'm sure you've heard the story of the person who survived the death camps intact. And yes, you're right, Judy mentioned this person last week. But synchronicity works like this. I started this talk about 3 months ago. So anyway, I'll remind you, this prisoner, when liberated, was found in good health. And his experience was completely different than most of the other prisoners around him. And that difference was his positive attitude, his response to his situation. Knowing he could either suffer or thrive, he chose the latter. Yes, trauma's real, and yes, suffering is always a choice. I don't know how many of you remember, there was a movie made a few years ago. Will Smith was the lead, and it was called The Pursuit of Happiness. And this is a story about overcoming seemingly unsurmountable hardship. It's a true story about a young black man and his little boy living on the streets of San Francisco. He had no money, no family, no resources, and no home. He was able to carve out a new, better life for himself and his son through sheer willpower. After many, many doors closed to him, he was able to find one that finally opened and started his life from the ground up, bringing himself up out of poverty to prosperity. How? He saw himself and his life as just a grand opportunity for change. He didn't see himself as most others do in similar situations. He used the tools he had to build a better life, not knowing what he didn't know, but hungry to learn and change. If he had kept believing and living the story of his life as a victim, then nothing would ever change, nothing ever would have. Now here's the lesson. What is your story? What is the reoccurring theme running through your life? What makes you angry? Who are you blaming for how things are? What are you afraid of? What resentments are you carrying around with you, just waiting to share with others in order to validate your feelings and vindicate yourself? What outside sources do you believe are at work at large, controlling you, enslaving you, keeping you oppressed? Are you believing? Really? I don't know your story, but these all have the same theme running through them. Something happened to me, or is happening to me, so that I can't be or get or do what I want, and I am suffering. That's not to say that bad things don't happen to people. They do, every day. But they don't have to rule your life. You always have a choice. As they say, suffering is an option. And even though your karma may have been written in your DNA, it can be changed. All it takes is a willingness to open up to your deepest, darkest fears, to sit with them and be willing to see them in a different way. And from last week, Pamela shared something about her life that speaks to this. You might want to talk to her about that. It is the way that you will discover the gifts for what they really are. Self-discovery leads to self-mastery. So we adopted these perspectives and beliefs unconsciously, and most are not original ideas or points of view. Most were handed down to us, shaping our life experience in predictable patterns. From an energetic perspective, the universal law of correspondence says for every outgoing energy quality, there is a reciprocal response. This means every thought you have and every word you speak as energy goes out as a question, a transmission, and comes back as an answer, a reception from Source as a quantum wave with both positive and negative polarities at a determined frequency. This is how synchronicity happens, and the reason the same idea can come to multiple people at the same time. It is through the matrix. The more emotion tied to the thought, the more energetic quality and quantity it holds and manifests in correlation. Since you're doing this unconsciously all the time, why wouldn't you want to manifest what serves your highest good instead? Coincidentally, you may realize that what's playing out in the world around us is also happening to each of us, in each of us. The truth is, we are, and only ever were, we, collectively, the all. We were never separated. We see the change as we witness what's happening with the earth and to all living beings. The internet, which is the reflection of our etheric connection, the matrix, to everything on all planes, is exposing all the areas of suffering, but it's also showing us magnificent acts of unconditional love, compassion, and miracles in the world. Science is also experiencing an expansion of its understanding of the world, breaking old paradigms. Researchers are pursuing areas in ways never before dreamed of. So this means evolution is happening right now, and we are part of it. We have a part to play. So it's through these thought forms, which are constantly playing in a feedback loop, specifically the ones associated with the highest energetic emotional quality, which are the traumas we are suffering under through resistance that we want to work with. These thought forms and the body's emotional response equals manifestation. This is when we are out of alignment with Source. What we resist persists. Sound familiar? Also, excuse me, know this. Oh, time for more water. Sorry. These thought forms, especially about people as in judgment, cause harm. Any person you think about and have a strong emotional response to creates an energetic connection. Resentments and other equally powerful emotions like hatred are how energy blockages are created in the body. They are crystallized thought forms on the physical plane, and they can many times manifest as a disease or condition in that part of the body or energy field. Slide 3. Working to process these traumas is the way to freedom. It happens on the spiritual plane. That's where we can call on the assistance from the angelic beings. They're standing by all the time. With our imagination now fully aware of that emotional tie which we most want to avoid and holds us hostage to pain, we hold it in the light, and by this I mean literally. See the situation and or person fully enclosed in a golden light and say these words, I forgive you. The you in this case is yourself. You are the one who created this thought, and only you have the power to forgive your misunderstanding. Remember, judgment, which grew out of a distorted view of ourselves as unworthy, is a display of the fear of what we hold and hide from in ourselves. It is a projection. When we see it in others, it's the way the unconscious tells us a little lie saying, oh, I'm not like that. When in reality, the subconscious knows we are, but uses that projection as a way to process it, to get it out of the body, to fool ourselves, to think and absolve ourselves from any of those crimes and transgressions. But it's precisely this We think we're fooling ourselves, but we're not. It's how we got ourselves into this dilemma in the first place. And it's only through acceptance, love, and compassion that can bring us out of our collective distorted perception and amnesia. Now, every time you have this thought, do this practice. And what you are doing is literally connecting the heart to the mind. We are building the resonance of compassion into our bodies on all levels. Now, there's a word of caution here. Compassion is different from sympathy energetically. You can ask Reverend Judy about this. Compassion is the act of recognizing the pain others are experiencing. Sympathy is being in the pain of others energetically. Compassion opens the heart, joins with the mind. It's a mental activity and holds a neutral position energetically. It is productive concern, the middle way of Buddhism, and it is safe for the body. The second one is an emotional activity that holds the body energetically tied to the other and drains vital energy from your body. In worst cases, it can cause resonance with the other, which can lead to absorbing, manifesting the cause of suffering to our own detriment. This is especially helpful to know in regards to our response to the world events such as natural catastrophe and war. Feeling compassion for those victims, holding them in the light, avoids the mistake of commiserating, being in sympathy with them, which only adds fuel to the situation. Or worse, feeling hatred or animosity towards those we feel are responsible for the current events. This creates a feedback loop from the object of rejection and can cause harm in us. You can talk to Charles about that. Remember, when Jesus healed the sick, he did so acknowledging only the divine within, never acknowledging the condition as real. Always be aware of your energetic ties. When we are shedding light on our traumas, we can discover their source and begin building on a foundation of forgiveness for ourselves and others, and start living more consciously. Our thoughts, our distorted beliefs and perspectives are our own making and can be undone. And realizing them for what they are, gifts to us. We chose them. They can help transform us and enlighten us. I know for myself the gifts I received from my parents and all my life's hardships have shaped me with precision, my reason for being. And in fact, the Spirit revealed to me recently, showing me a series of lifetimes, I don't know how many thousands of years, the life lessons I have been working through past lives, which has brought me to where I am today, and it makes clear my talents and my passions, the reason for my being here. So if you're thinking about trauma and feel maybe you had a pretty normal, untraumatic childhood and life so far, here are some of the ways they show up. These are kind of dead giveaways. Sarcasm or comedy. You remember Robin Williams, a brilliant comedian. He took his own life. He was trying to cover up a world of pain. Worry, doubt, insecurities, I'm not good enough, arrogance or timidity, pride, competitiveness, gossip, judgment, self, and others. Once you discover the areas you want to heal, now look to the questions you've been sending out to the universe and the answer you've been receiving. Remember, I said at the beginning of the message that consciously and unconsciously we're transmitting to and receiving information from the universe. And the questions are something like this. Why am I always fill in the blank? Why does fill in the blank always happen to me? Why am I not ever able to fill in the blank? Why is fill in the blank controlling me? And why can't he or she change? And these are just a few, but you get the idea. Now simply turn the question around into a positive question. For example, why do bad things always happen to me? Becomes, why do good things always happen to me? Doing this reveals and heals the distorted belief, that energy coming back to you, or judging yourself through condemning self-talk such as, well, that was stupid. Anyone here ever say that? Probably not. From this distorted, instead, let's say, well, that was a teaching moment, or nothing at all. Welcome the opportunity to learn and grow. We are breaking old patterns of thought and beliefs and rearranging the forms for a healthier mental, spiritual, more expanded consciousness. This is transmutation and integration. Being in a more heart-centered and compassionate state, aligning with spirit and soul, is more balanced state and puts us in the now, in coherence. This is where we become superhuman and start to work in higher dimensions. When you have done this in any small way, the universe rewards you with a heightening of your natural spiritual gifts. You may begin to notice miracles and synchronicities. Judy mentioned that. They're unfolding in your life every day. Now, last slide. So, in conclusion, I know you all are tired probably of hearing me talk. I see some of those eyes closing. Be open to learn and change. It's natural, it's necessary, and turn your negative questions to positive ones. See with the heart. Join the heart to the mind, practicing compassion, staying in alignment. Let judgment die in you. Hold anyone you judge in the light. And love unconditionally. When you don't, the world is a hostile place, and everyone in it is a potential enemy or threat. Remember, too, that the light is not fighting with darkness, just as we don't go to war with our traumas. They are working together. You cannot have one without the other. It's only from our limited perspectives that gives us this impression. Live each day in deep gratitude. This is instant spiritual upgrade. Let it be the first words out of your mouth in the morning and the last ones on your lips before you go to sleep. And practice forgiveness for yourself and the world. Or we're just still, as children, finding our way. This is the work of integration. It's leading us to transcendence. Make it a daily practice. Listen and watch for transformation as you are consciously engaging with the soul and spirit. And know that you are deeply loved and you are love incarnate. Thank you so much. Namaste.